Welcome to Math with Mr. P. Today we'll be going over 6th grade, Chapter 3, Lesson 1. To add decimals and subtract decimals is what we will be learning today. Now, the first thing you need to know about adding and subtracting decimals is to keep the place values in order. Meaning, another way of saying this is to line up the decimals. When we subtract whole numbers, for example, if I were to subtract 7 from 54, I would line up the ones place and subtract this way. You can even put a placeholder 0 here and subtract 4 minus 7. Can't do it. Would need to borrow. This would become a 4. This would become 14. 14 minus 7 would be 7. So my answer would be 47. With the decimals, I'm always going to line up the decimals. That's the easiest way to remember this because then you're lining up place values. So if I were to subtract 0.3, if I'm adding 56.73 and 0.37, I'm going to go ahead and line up the place values. What I would do here is do 3 plus 7, which would be 10, carry the 1. 7 plus 3 would be 10 again, plus the 1 would make 11, so I'd carry the 1. 1 and 6 and 0 would make 7, and the 5 plus nothing would make 5. Therefore, I would have 57.10. And then remember, with decimals, the 0 would fade away at the end, so it would be 57.1. Now, on this side, we are going to be subtracting decimals. If my highlighter would work. There we go. We're going to be subtracting decimals. So we are going to actually subtract. Let me go ahead and get my eraser here. We're going to subtract 72.34, subtract 58.10. Now, we put the 0 there as kind of a placeholder. 4 minus 0 will be 4. 3 minus 1 would be 2. The decimal is lined up. As we did with the addition, we have to line up the decimals. Now we have a trick here, or we have a problem. 2 minus 8, I cannot do. So I'm going to have to borrow from the 7. This will now become 6, and this will become 12. 12 minus 8. If we take the 2 away, we have 10. We need to take 6 more. We would end up with 4. And 6 minus 5 would give me 1. 14.24. So again, in order to subtract or add decimals, we definitely need to line up the decimals. So for example, if I do 7.2 plus 13.5, this setup is wrong. Notice that the decimal is over here and this decimal is over here. The correct way to write this out would be 7.2 plus 13.5. And if ever there is a space there, you can always add a 0 as a placeholder. But notice that our decimals are lined up. This will get you the correct place value. The correct answer for this would be 2 plus 5 is 7, bring down the decimal. 7 plus 3 would be 10, carry the 1. And 1 plus 0 plus 1 would be 2, 20.7. Now, moving on, we're going to do a few examples here. This lesson will not be a big one, but we are going to go over a few things. To add decimals, line up the decimal points, then add digits in the same place value position, just as we went over. So if we're finding the sum, and remember, anytime they say the sum or the difference, those are academic terms. The sum will be the answer to an addition problem, and the difference will be the answer to a subtraction problem. So find the sum of 23.1 and 5.8. And notice again here. Oh, can't do that. Notice here that they are lining up the decimal point. So we'd add 1 and 8 together, which would get us 9. And 3 plus 5 would get us 8. And 2 plus nothing would give us 2, so this would become 28.9, sorry. Find the sum of 29.6 and 14.7. Now, anytime they say estimate, when we do estimate things, we're just kind of rounding up. So 29.6 is kind of close to 30 if we were to round it up. And 14.7 is actually close to 15. If we add 30 and 15 together, we'd get 45. So we're going to estimate that it's going to be about 45. Now let's actually find the true value by utilizing these numbers. So we'll have 29, so we'll put the 2 here and the 9 here, 0.6, and 14.7. Now, we're always going to start on the right side here. So the 6 and the 7 first. 6 plus 7 will give me 13. I'm going to carry the 1. Now, when I add multiple digits, I like to look at numbers that I can group together. For example, 1 and 9 together would become 10. And then I would add the 4 to it, which would become 14. Carry the 1. And I'm going to group again. I know 1 and 1 will make 2, plus 2 more will get me 4. So 44.3 will be my actual number, and the reasonableness, when they ask for check for reasonableness, 44.3 is very close to 45. Therefore, my estimation was correct. Let's do a few got it problems. 54.7 plus 21.4. 54.7 plus 21.4. Again, I lined up all of the decimals. 7 plus 4. I know that 7 plus 3 is 10, so if 7 plus 4 would be 1 more, that would just be 11. And I would carry the 1, bring the decimal down. 1 plus 4 plus 1. The two 1s together would make 2, plus a 4 would make 6. And 5 plus 2 would make 7. Therefore, the answer, or the sum of 54.7 plus 21.4 would become 76.1. Let's do example B together. 14.2 and 23.5. Again, we lined up the decimals, and we're just going to add from right to left. 2 plus 5 will make 7. Bring down the decimal. 4 and 3 together will also make 7. And 1 plus 2 equals 3. 37.7. And for our last example, 17.3 plus 33.5. Now, in all of these examples, we've been really lucky because they all have the same amount of digits in them in the right place values. But remember, you're always lining up the decimals. So decimals are lined up, and we're going to go from right to left. 3 plus 5 will make 8. Bring down the decimal. 7 and 3 will make 10. Carry the 1. And then 1 and 1 together will be 2, plus a 3 will make 5. So the answer to this one will be 50.8. Now the same rules will apply when we subtract decimals. To subtract decimals, line up the decimal points, then subtract digits in the same place value position. You may need to annex or place zeros at the end of a decimal in order to subtract. So remember, you can always add zeros to the end of a decimal, especially if there's not the same amount of place values. For this example, find the difference. So again, academic language, sum is the answer to a addition problem or an addition problem, and the difference is the answer to a subtraction problem. We're going to find the difference of 5.774 and 2.371. Now, when it is a word problem like this, the first number will be the number you are going to be taking away from. The second number is the number you are going to be taking away. So 5.774 minus 2.371. We'd still work from left to right, starting in this column and going all the way this way. So we're going to start with 4 minus 1. That would equal 3. 7 minus 7 will be 0. 7 minus 3 would be 4. Bring down the decimal. And 5 minus 2 would give us 3. So the answer would be 3.403, just like it says over here. Now, they did want us to estimate this. You could have estimated that 5.7 is closer to 6. 2.3 would still be about 2 or 3 if you want to subtract. And you could have said it would have been about 3 or about 2. That would have been fine. We're not so much heavily focused on the estimating as we are the actual math. Now, we're going to find 6 minus 4.78. Now, when you have a whole number like 6, what you can do is just add a bunch of zeros at the end. Because this is 4.78, and we needed those two place values, I just added 2 zeros at the end of 6. And don't forget to add the decimal. A whole number is just having, 0.0000 at the behind it, and zeros forever, because there are no tenths or partials, which is what a decimal is. A decimal means that there is a part of a whole. So 6 minus 4.78 would look like this. 0 minus 8 we can't do, so we need to borrow. We cannot borrow from this 0, so this 0 is going to borrow from this 6. This will become 5. This will now become 10. And I'm going to go ahead and erase some of these arrows to kind of make space for us. This will become 10, and now I can borrow from this one. This will now become 9, and this will become 10. 10 minus 8 will give me 2. 9 minus 7 will also give me 2. Bring down the decimal, and remember, because we borrowed from this 6, it became 5. 5 minus 4 would become 1. And it would be, I put another decimal in there for some reason, 1.22. And that is exactly what we have over here. Now let's find 23 minus 4.216. Same rules apply. I write 23 as a whole number. And remember, whole numbers can have 0.0000 forever and ever and ever after it. So I'm actually going to put a few zeros here if my pen will register. There we go. And I will write 4.216. Now we're going to be doing the exact same thing we did here before. I'm going to fix this 4 before we move on. Go ahead and erase that and rewrite it. The pen is not registering very well today, but we'll do our best. 0 minus 6 cannot do. I need to borrow. I can't borrow from this 0 or this 0, so we're going to be doing a chain borrow. This will become a 2. This will become a 10. Now this will actually become a 9 because this 10 will be borrowing, or this 0 will be borrowing, which will become a 10. Then this one will also become a 9, which this will become a 10 because it borrowed. If I went too fast, let me kind of highlight that again. We borrowed from this 3 to make it a 2. This becomes a 10. These other zeros right here still cannot do anything. So I'm going to borrow from this 10 right here to make it a 9. This will become 10. This 0 right here still can't do anything. So it will borrow from this 10, which will become a 9. And this will become a 10. And I'll write this 9 in green just to make it even. So 10 minus 6 we'll do a different color. 10 minus 6 will be 4. 9 minus 1 will be 8. 9 minus 2 will be 7. And 2 minus 4 cannot do. I will borrow from this 2. Becomes 1. This becomes 12. 12 minus 4 will become 8. And the 1 minus nothing, 1. 18.784. Now, I highly suggest that if you have any kind of concerns, that you use a calculator to double check your work. I'm going to go ahead and erase these things up here so I can see what the original problem was and plug it into a calculator. Now, calculator is your friend to check your work, not necessarily to do your work. So I'm going to do 23 minus 4.216. And I got 18.784, which is exactly what I got. Therefore, I know I did this correctly. So, calculators are your friends for checking answers, not doing the work. And we have some examples here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go on the digital whiteboard to do these questions because the pen is acting very strange on the OneNote, and I have a feeling it has to deal with the zooming in. And we actually have a lot more space here to write what we need to write. So 9.543. 9.543. And we will be subtracting 3.671. 3.671. Notice again, the decimals are lined up. Now let's subtract. 3 minus 1 will be 2. 4 minus 7, I cannot do. Therefore, I need to borrow from this 5 to make it a 4, and this will become a 14. 14 minus 7 is 7. 4 minus 6 cannot do. I will need to borrow from this 9, get an 8. This will now become a 14. Ooh, weird triangle. Become a 14. 14 minus 6 will make this 8. And we will now bring down the decimal. And 8 minus 3 will be 5. And we will check our work to make sure that we did everything correctly. 9 point, and I'll use touchscreen on this one, 0.543 minus 3.671. And I did put it in correctly. I did. Equals 5.872, which is exactly what we got. So we did the question correctly. Now let's move on to a different example. Now we're dealing with money. $50.62 minus $39.81. So I'm going to remember 50, 62. And because it's dealing with money, our answer needs to have the dollar sign at the end. Minus 39.81. No, I know I said at the end. At the end of our answer, meaning at the end of when we're done, not at the end. Like the dollar sign needs to be before the numbers, but our end goal, our answer is going to have a dollar sign somewhere. 2 minus 1 will be 1. 6 minus 8 can't do. I also can't borrow from this 0. So, chain borrowing. This becomes a 4. This becomes a 10. This will now also become a 9 because it's going to be borrowed by this 6, which becomes a 16. 16 minus 8 will become 8. Bring down a decimal. 9 minus 9 will be 0. 4 minus 3 will become 1. It'll be $10.81, and we will go ahead and check our work. 50.62 minus 39.81, $10.81. And we'll actually do this last example. 14 minus 9.09. 14 minus 9.09. Now, we have a little bit of a problem. 14 minus 9.09, I believe is what it is. 9.09, yes. I now need to turn my 14 into a decimal with placeholders. Because notice that I did line up the decimals. They try to trick us. 0 minus 9 cannot happen. Borrow, but I can't borrow from this 0. Chain borrows. We're going to have to deal with doing that a lot. This will become a 3. This will become a 10, which will then become a 9. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to write 9, and this will become a 10. 10 minus 9 will be 1. 9 minus 0 will become 9. This decimal will come down. 3 minus 9 cannot do. We'll borrow from the 1, but that'll just make it 13 anyway. And 13 minus 9. If you can't do what 13 minus 9 is, just take the 9 and count up to 13. So it'll be 10, 11, 12, 13. You added 1, 2, 3, 4 new numbers to it. So 13 minus 9 will actually be 4. 4.91, and we can go ahead and check our work. 14 minus 9.09 gives us 4.91, which is what we got. So a lot of these are going to be more types of examples, but we'll do a word problem one. Let's see. Okay, so let's decipher this word problem. Reagan is creating a video. The first video clip was 22.36 minutes long. The second video clip was 17.03 minutes long. What was the total length of the video? So if he put the two clips together, how long would be the total length? The key word here is total, which means we're going to be adding them together. We will add 22.36 and 17.03 as shown here. 6 plus 3 will become 9. 3 plus 0 will become 3. 2 plus 7 will become 9, and then we brought down the decimal beforehand. Sorry, I skipped that one. And 2 plus 1 will be 3. Therefore, his video will be 39.39 minutes long. And it's very important that we add the minutes long, especially when we're dealing with a word problem, because they're asking us for a specific thing. What is the total length of the video? We need to put 39.39 minutes long. If you just put 39.39, doesn't help. It's like somebody asking, how tall are you? And you're like 5. 5 what? You need to say 5 feet. So with a word problem, we definitely need to add words at the end of it. Now let's do this one, and this will be our last one for this example, or for this chapter. It won't let me maximize the screen because I had it on draw. Jonathan is traveling for work. This morning, his GPS indicated that the total distance to his destination is 589.4 miles. I'm going to go ahead and write this over here. We're going to go ahead and start a new whiteboard. 589.4. So, and I'm going to go ahead and put miles, because remember, this is a word problem, so our answer is more than likely going to end in miles. Before lunch, he drove 208.62 miles. 208.6, and I believe he said 62 miles. I'm going to go ahead and erase this miles over here, because guess what? If this is a subtraction problem, like I'm guessing, I am going to need to put a placeholder 0 here. How much farther does Jonathan, wow, can't talk right now. How much farther does Jonathan need to travel? How much farther indicates that this is going to be a subtraction problem. If his total distance to his destination is the 589.4 miles, and he already drove this much, how much more or how much farther does Jonathan need to travel? We are going to do 589.4 minus 208.62, which we actually set up over here. Now, we can go ahead and start from the right side as always, and we're going to go ahead and do a little galaxy color for this one. 0 minus 2 cannot do. Borrow from the 4 becomes a 3. This will become a 10. 10 minus 2 will become 8. 3 minus 6 definitely cannot do. I will borrow from this 9. It will become 8. And I will add the 1 to the 3 to make it 13. 13 minus 6. I know if I take 3 away from 13, it'll become 10. But I still have to take 3 more in order to make that 6, because 3 plus 3 is 6. 3 more will make that 10 minus 3, which will make it 7. And I'm going to rewrite that 7. I know this is difficult right now with my thumb and everything and touchscreen, but 13 minus 6 is 7. Bring down your decimal. 8 minus 8, easy, is 0. 8 minus 0 is also easy. It's 8. We're not taking anything away from the 8. And 5 minus 2 will become 3. And once again, if we need to, calculator out, and let's check our work. 589.4. We don't need to put the 0, but I mean, if it helps, we'll put the 0. Minus 208.62 equals 380.78, which is exactly what we got. Now, my computer fan is turning on, which means it's starting to overheat, which means that we've probably gone over time. If you have any questions, again, you can always comment on the video or message me on Teams if you're watching this live in my class. If you're watching this outside of YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. And you can always go ahead and comment on the video if you're not understanding something or you need some clarification, and I can reach out. This has been Mr. P. Again, this has been Chapter 3, Lesson 1 for 6th grade math.